Call the Town Council Committee meeting Wednesday, September 24th, 2025 to order.
Councilman Haddix.
Present.
Councilman Barnes.
Present.
Councilman Dennis.
Present.
Councilwoman Faison.
Present.
Councilman Ogle.
Present.
Mayor Pilat.
Present. Would everyone please silence their phones, stand for the pledge by Councilman Downs.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment period. Members of the audience have an opportunity to make a statement or express a concern to the council. Is anyone here to speak? Please come forward and state your name and address.
Thank you. All right, Stacy Domain, 103 Renee Street, Madisonville. Two things. First of all, where are the signs for the no parking on the bayou side for the school? Because if they crowd the street again, that is an endangerment to the people who live there. The next thing is my oak tree. I'm going to say it nicely. I met this gentleman, came by to see my tree. Do not put your arm around my shoulder, get in my face, and talk to me in a condescending manner when I'm telling you I'm in who's of American teachers, I taught science, and you're going to tell me about the oak tree? Oh, and we'll just do this and we'll just do that, and we'll take care of the roots under the street. I don't know who he is, but he is not an arborist, and this is a registered over $10,000 value tree. You are supposed to have an arborist, you're supposed to have a tree cutting service that has an arborist that is certified and that has the liability insurance that they can show you ASAP. All I got from this one was, well, we can do this, we can do that, we can do... No, we can't. The tree has to come down, and it has to come down correctly. I'm talking to people who actually know what they're doing. I'm generation number 4, living in this house. That tree was there before my grandmother was born. So when we're talking about the tree, I know what I'm saying. So I expect to see an arborist.
Well, let me just answer that, and not that we normally answer any statement the night of, but the gentleman that came by, we were trying, from my opinion, it is not a town tree that the town can pay for. It's in your yard, 100% of the trees in your yard. So we were trying to do you a favor and find someone to service to cut the tree at the best price we could possibly find. The gentleman you're speaking of has been cutting trees for over 50 years. He's very well known. He cuts trees for Clico. He cuts trees for West St. Tammany Power Company. He cuts trees for the parish. He cuts trees all the time. He's not a person that's just, and he's been cutting trees from Madisonville for 8 years since I've been the mayor. So he's not a fly-by-night person. He's got plenty of experience. He knows what he's doing. So I was trying to find someone to address your problem at a very reasonable rate. So,
Jay, let me explain something real quick. First of all, what has been damaged on the street side of the tree. It is not I have never damaged that tree. The damage for my tree has come from the town, from Peter Getz allowing 18-wheelers, allowing the school buses to run over the sidewalk and break it, to fill in with aggregate, when Bob Thibodeau, who is a nationally recognized tree expert, told him not to. Every bit of damage that has been done to that tree has been done because the 18-wheelers coming down here, the only street in Madisonville, the 18-wheelers were allowed to come down was Renee Street. And not just going to the school, they would come down to go wherever.
I understand, Stacy, but it's just my opinion. I'm just giving you my opinion, is that I can't tell you that Peter Getz killed your tree, and that's your statement. I don't go along with that.
But if you look at his tree in front of the Madisonville Museum, you will see a major difference between mine and his.
Listen, if you would, please, I just, that's my opinion, and I tried to do something to help. I didn't, you don't have to use the person.
I'm not the one who damaged the tree, and I'm not the one who should be paying for the damage.
But the tree is in your yard, and we can't spend public money to take a tree out of private property.
The tree also is on the sidewalk, and the limbs are over the street. Therefore, the town is responsible for the health and welfare of those limbs, and they didn't do it. And every time one of these 18-wheelers comes through, it scrapes and everything else. The town ordinance, take a good look at it and see where the town is responsible for the limbs, and the town has not honored its responsibility. That's the problem.
Well, the limbs could be trimmed by the
You
town.
can't trim the limbs without knocking over
You want
the
us to
tree.
trim the limbs, and then you don't want us to trim the limbs. I can't do,
Jim, you have to trim it of the way it should be trimmed, and it's not going to be that you come in with maintenance and you whack one of the limbs because the tree is already.
this is not the place or time to debate that. And I just tried to help. Kyle tried to help. Kyle contacted the gentleman. He came out, he looked at it, and he was trying to do something to help. So I heard your message to Kyle. He played it to me, and I'm sorry that didn't work. But the person you're talking about has plenty years of experience.
Then why talk to me in a condescending manner?
I don't know how he spoke to you, and I can't apologize for
Excuse me,
him.
David, I would like a physical copy of the town ordinance on paper detailing what is the town's policy and ordinance concerning the live oak trees.
Okay, come in and certainly we'll give you whatever you ask for.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I went and looked at the tree myself. It's a massive tree.
Yes.
It's, the base of the tree, at least to me, appears to be partially on town property, the right-of-way of the street. That portion of the tree has damage to it. And I've been listening to Stacy talk about this for some time. We've heard, her version of what happened to the tree back when, I guess, Mayor Getz was a mayor. But it is clearly hollowed out there, and there's some damage. There's another tree, another large live oak, maybe in the house right next to it, or the one past that has no such damage, but it's also, the tree's not out by the road. So, we have a town attorney. One of the things that I wanted to ask about this was, if the tree itself was entirely on her property, like you said, there's no way we could pay for anything concerning the tree. But it appears to me that it's not entirely on her property. So do we have, I guess, the legal authority to pay for something with the tree if it's
the trunks on partially on town property? And do we have, if it is, as Stacy says, you know, that tree was damaged over the years by some town activity, you know, are we not in some way liable if it comes down? The tree stretches out with large branches over Stacy's house, and I believe on top of the house right next to it as well. So I guess my immediate question is, if it isn't part on town property, are we legally able to pay for something to be done to the tree? I'm asking the town attorney, basically. If you know.
Yes, you certainly can address it.
The question is, where is the center of the tree? Where was it planted? If it was planted on private property and it expanded over the years onto public property, it's the responsibility of the property owner. With regard to the branches, if the branches extend over the private property of another individual or public property, that is the responsibility of the private owner.
Is that somewhere in the revised statutes where it lists the center of the tree as, you know, who the owner or responsibility of the tree is?
Revised statutes, the civil code, or simply in jurisprudence, okay? But I handle a few. In fact, I talked to somebody about one a little while ago, just by coincidence. But yes, it's who planted the tree. If the tree was planted on private property. Now, generally, if you can determine where the center of the tree is, and in the survey that I looked at today, the surveyor pinpointed, okay, the exact center, and it was on private property, okay? So then it's the responsibility. If it goes on to public property, then either the private owner has to, you know, cut it down to eliminate their responsibility, or just leave it growing. But you cannot impose upon either public body or another person, private property, to take care of branches which extend over public or private property over a period of years.
I have a question. Why was I told that the branches going over the street belong to the town, that I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, I couldn't do anything?
Give me the name and contact information of that person.
I thought Peter Hicks told me that he did.
Well,
You know, and we couldn't do this, 18 wheelers.
as you know, I can't contact Peter Gibbs, okay? So there must be some, if that's true, there must be some written confirmation or something, okay, in the records that he indicated that to you, or it was a passing comment, or there was a mistake on somebody's part, and that's not what he said, okay? So I'm just telling you what the law is, and it makes sense.
And why did he go away about the tree?
Do you have any further comments, Lord?
Well, I was going to ask, do you have an update on the signs?
No discussion been held on that. Well, listen, and until the police department approach me about what their thoughts are, their feelings, they may have professional feelings in objection to that. I don't know their feelings, but nothing's been brought to me. Now, you can ask that question at the regular council meeting to the police department or to the chief, but I can't answer that question. And it's not on the agenda, so that's not really an extended part of this agenda tonight, unless it's amended. So, anything else? Okay, let's move forward. First thing on the agenda is the Finance Committee. Finance Committee members, Councilman Downs, Councilman Haddocks, and the first thing on the agenda is the wage study presentation. Anyone want to open up the discussion on the wage study presentation?
I sent everybody a copy of the narrative of what I'm proposing in terms of implementing the pay scale that was recommended by SSA Consultants. So everybody has a hard copy of that. I guess I could go through. That part, Jim. But I'm going to take Kristen's word for it. We discussed this a couple of times now, and some of you had some input on, what would the steps mean? How do you recognize people? Do we have to give everybody a step increase every year? So I put into words, into writing, what I feel would be a good implementation plan for the pay scale. I also shared with each of you, estimated cost based upon the years of service that people had and what Deidre had shared with us from the current budget. But what I have this broken down to is for current employees. So under this implementation plan, each current employee would be placed within the appropriate range and step of the pay scale based upon years of relevant full-time experience with the town of Madisonville or elsewhere in his or her current position up to a maximum of step 10 in the pay plan. Current employees whose rate of pay results in a decrease through adoption of the new pay scale shall remain at their current rate of pay and be eligible for the annual increases detailed below, beginning with the next fiscal year. And I think we did, once I applied everyone's experience to the pay scale, I think we did have 2 on there that actually would have had a decrease in pay. But on my proposal, they'd stay at their current pay. Each year, the town council shall consider the following types of pay increases for current employees. This decision shall be subject to the availability of funds for the following fiscal year and must be approved through the normal budget approval process. First one's a cost of living increase. The town council may approve a percentage cost of living pay increase for employees. An approved cost of living increase shall increase all steps in the pay plan by a fixed percentage approved by the town council. Step increase, the town council may approve a step increase for employees who have worked in their current positions for a full year. Not guaranteed, but it's something we would consider every year. And an additional step increase, some of you talked about recognizing people for new certifications or skills. The town council may approve an additional step increase for employees who have gained new certifications or skills related to their current positions and/or who have additional experience not recognized during implementation of the new pay scale. So we have several employees who actually have more than 10 years of experience. Some have 30 or 40 years of experience. But they're limited in this kind of modified, measured implementation plan to step 10 in the pay plan. So my thinking on this is that, as we move forward to the next fiscal year, we could, if we wanted to, take those individuals that didn't go all the way up, say to step 20, and give them 2 steps instead of 1. Or if not everyone's getting a step, give them 1 step to help to bring them up to, where they would normally be in the pay plan if this pay plan had been in effect throughout their employment here. I also have a line here, employees who are promoted during the fiscal year shall be placed at step 1 of the appropriate pay scale. If step 1 does not offer a minimum of a 5% increase in pay, a promoted employee shall be placed at a step in the pay scale that achieves a minimum 5% increase. And then new employees hired after the implementation of this new pay scale shall be placed within an appropriate range and step of the pay scale based upon years of relevant full-time experience with the town of Madisonville or elsewhere up to a maximum of step 10 in the pay plan. So that's page 1. Page 2, I took what Deidre had shared with us. I took the current budget, so I've got the employee's name, what their position is. Police officers were easy. I had to talk to Kyle about where the others would fall. So the original plan that was presented by Cody had, I think, 5 different equipment operator pay levels. And I talked to Kyle, and he said, we really only need to use 1. We have 2 people who are qualified to be an equipment operator. There's a position on here called gas tech, which carries a certification with it. And then Kirk Ostendorf, who's under maintenance, also has that gas certification, and that allows him to be in charge on the weekend in case there is an emergency. So he's a maintenance gas tech. Other than that, it's maintenance workers. We have 2 utility clerks, 1 finance clerk. I think there were one or two people here who are already where they should be in the pay plan, so you'll find that there's no increase in pay for them. But for the most part, people have an increase in pay when we adopt this implementation plan. And then at the last page is just the pay grade scale that Cody had suggested. Possibly William. I forget exactly what Cal said. I think. I talked to the department heads to find out, how many other years of relevant experience that they had. So something could be off here, but I mean, I'm going on what I got from Deidre, what I got from Kyle, what I got from, I talked to Lieutenant.
I'm noticing that our step 20 is slightly below the market maximum on every one of these. Is that correct?
Step 20 in the pay plan?
Correct, yeah.
When I started to look at that, the pay plan itself, and I reached out to Cody, it's based on a 40-hour week. So if you divide the pay plan by 2080, you get what the hourly rate is. And when I did that, there's just some rounding errors in there. I think that's all it is.
I just didn't know if that was intentional or, right, yeah.
How much work was done in not just coming up with figures to increase someone's wage, but how much work was done evaluating the availability of reoccurring money in the budget to provide funds for the employees in the future? How much work was done there?
Yeah, that's an important part of the consideration. I've only been on the council for 15 months, and, for me, it seems like almost every time we're here, we're asked to approve some additional expense, $30,000 a year. Last meeting, it was $60,000. Typically, the response is it comes out of the general fund. I sat down and added it all up. It was close to, over $2 million in town money, not counting the grant money that I've voted on just since I've been here for things that I don't really consider to be essential. But, some might be safety related, and I can certainly appreciate that. But, that's what has been my observation, that we've got plenty of money. The budget this year had a $500,000 line item for a fishing pier that didn't get approved.
That would be that wouldn't be out of the general fund, or if it were, it would be very little. So, in reality, how much time has been spent studying the budget and evaluating the availability of the reoccurring raises that's being proposed, because salaries need to be derived from reoccurring income and not just from a one-time glance at a program not being funded that year.
I have a question. I think it was our last meeting, you mentioned that you had some clarification from someone on the sales tax, the 1%, and how it's divided. Could you clarify that for me? Because when I look at this, I don't see where it says that we separate it. So I think that would be helpful for me in understanding.
You have the sales tax in front of you?
Have the ordinance.
Well, it's highlighted for you.
Right.
Yeah, would you, if you would, please read what that first sales tax of 65, that 1 penny, was approved, and there's no funding in that, what I read, no funding in that for salaries. It's all for bridges, maintaining garbage disposal sites, garbage collection, equipment, purchasing equipment for all public works departments. I don't see anything in there for salaries. In the second penny sales tax, this is the way I read it. That was, if you'll go to it, please, and look at the purposes, for the purpose of maintenance, repairs, operation, and equipment for waterworks and sewer, streets, recreation areas, police department, town hall, and administrative offices. So this 1 cent sales tax is for the police, town hall, and administrative.
So it's not, I was under the impression it was one, this was one thing. Forgive me, so let me read this with the new information.
So that's my interpretation of it, is that when we're looking at the salaries of the police department, town hall, and the administration side, it would be that is the reoccurring monies that we should be assured of.
And that's how we do our accounting for the gas fund, the sales tax fund, the sewer fund. That's how we apply the monies. So the sewer,
Now, that's general fund.
that's general fund. In the utility fund, it has to be used within the utilities. So all that money, which looks like a lot of money, the gas has to pay for sewer, or they can subsidize each other within that. Although the water department has to be 101%, correct? So that fund pays for those workers.
Yeah, so again, you're right. And that's why salaries are broken down, and proportionally, their salaries are listed under different funds. In other words, when we have someone strictly working in the gas systems, they're paid out of the gas funds. But the police department and administration is out of the general fund, and that's where that money's derived from, is from the 1 cent sales tax. Now, from that 1 cent sales tax in the general fund, and that's all I ask you to do, is recognize that fund in your budget is a total of $865,000. The police department and the town administration, just their salaries for this year is $748,679. That's 86% of the entire 1 penny collected for the year. So that eliminates practically any money for maintenance, repairs, operations, equipment, waterworks, sewer work, streets. And it eliminates pretty much everything but the police department and town hall and administration. And that 1 cent.
Prior to November 11th of 1987, where was the funding coming from for salaries?
I don't know. I wasn't here.
Well, I'm obviously, I think, I'm just curious, this was,
I wasn't, let me clarify that. I wasn't here in the budgeting process.
right, I understood you. I was barely here, so if that makes you feel any
I was here. I was here.
So I think my question is, I would assume there were salaries to be funded prior to that. I guess I'm curious about the history and the intention of this additional 1%. And I do see what you're saying, how the first one from the 50s, or from 65, forgive me, specifically states what it's for, and that would not be salaries. 100% agree. I don't see any salaries mentioned here, or use of town hall, right? I think my question is, was the intention of this secondary ordinance to add to that and supplement it, or to be separate? You see what I'm saying?
Well, I only can read the approval of the sales tax as it's listed. That's on record.
Right.
So what was done with the first one, not listing any salaries in it, I don't know the reason why.
You know, I don't either, but I do know that part of the Louisiana law is that utilities have to pay for themselves, and you have to be able to stand alone. So I don't know if that's part of that separation and division of money. Yeah. I mean, that's where, it's funky accounting, but it's municipal accounting.
And you know, again, I would just, rather than on emotion or political promises, whatever it might be, I think approaching raises is a good thing, and it certainly has been done in the past. It's the salaries and the hourly wages have improved dramatically in the last 9 years. The Finance Committee, who meets with me prior to the budget being given to the council, had a plan, and part of their plan, and I'll share some, let me share this with you, if you would. So you pass those down, please. Part of their plan was an approach that I believe that was a very sensible approach to getting salaries where we want them to be. The Budget Committee presented, and to me, and I agreed with them after looking at it, that if we did an approach where year after year for several years here, we would increase, if you look at the top, the 3 pages, the one's FY 26, one's FY 27, and one's FY 28. If we did a 3-year program, or 2 years in addition to this year, and we increased salaries as we did this year, a minimum of 5% across the board. Each year, we would drastically or certainly improve salaries throughout our employee pay, or throughout our employee offices. If you look at the 12th line, and I'm going to do salaries only, because this was printed without any increases in benefits, because obviously we don't know what kind of increases in benefits. So all we can look at is that 12th line, which is the total salary, annual salary. And that total annual salary, if you look at 2027, all employees are increased at 5%, all full-time employees are increased at 5%. And only on the salary line can we look at it and recognize, if you go all the way to the bottom, it's going to be a difference of $49,000 between this year and next year's salaries in our town.
Well, actually, that's the difference
Yes.
Within this year's budget, it'll be the additional.
No, in next year's budget, with a 5% raise, it's gonna increase salaries a little over $49,000. The following year, in 2027, or 2028, I'm sorry, an additional 5% raise for all employees, and you can follow that, is going to increase salaries a little bit over $51,000. That's without any benefits being increased at all, and we know benefits are going to have an increase. Health insurance is going to go up. That drives all other things, Social Security, it drives workman's comp, it drives everything up. Just this year, which is not in the budget, because we didn't have the increases when we did the budget, just this year, our health insurance is going up 9%. So with a 9% increase in the budget this year, there could be some need to do a budget amendment on salaries and benefits by the end of this year. So what I'm saying to you is that the Finance Committee took a sound approach by saying over a continued period of time, until we get to where we can implement the annual pay raise, or where we can implement the step raise, I should say, because the annual pay raise, no employee has ever gone in the last, well, at least in the last 9 years, without a pay raise. We've had pay raises every year the last 9 years. So
And this program shows 5% a year.
these 3 years show a minimum of 5%.
On top of what was done.
Previously, yes. So I'm just suggesting to you that I think the Finance Committee has a good approach to increase salaries across the board, and it can be budgeted and planned on each year, rather than making any emotional decision that can't be budgeted and looked at on the reoccurring side of the ball.
Mr. Mayor, I would remind you that I am the only person up here who voted against the salary study. I thought it was a waste of money. I was afraid we wouldn't take it seriously. It's starting to sound that way to me. And it was all public information. The pay increases that you're showing on here would result in a higher cost than what I am presenting tonight within the next 2 years. Mine's a one-time pay increase, and every year we evaluate if we can add another increase to it. It adds $120,000 to the cost, but yours adds, I believe, $160,000 to the cost. I'm just looking at your numbers. I'm not making anything up. I'm looking at your bottom line numbers.
My numbers were $49,000 and $51,000.
But you got $1,728,000, which is the current year, and then $1,881,000,
Right.
which is $153,000. Mine goes up $120,000. Yours goes up $153,000.
Okay.
The whole purpose of the pay scale was to look at the positions that we have, evaluate them, and look to see where every position is in a competitive nature with the local job market. What the salary survey found was that some of our positions are actually already competitive. We've got 3 or 4 people that are already either at or above where the pay scale said they should be. But there's others that are not competitive. And to me, at this point, after spending thousands of dollars in town money, in waiting 10 months now to say, oh, well, we're not going to implement the pay plan. We have a plan that we came up with months ago before we even saw the results of the pay plan. It's just disingenuous
That's
to
not
me.
true.
That's what the mayor said. The finance committee came up with this before the last budget was put together.
No,
That was voted on in June.
Well, they did it for the last budget.
It was approved in
For
June.
the last budget, and we were waiting on the pay plan.
Well, now we have it, and I've proposed something that's reasonable. It costs less than what you have.
Listen, everything was geared towards getting them at least to the median pay scale on their positions, okay? This gets them there in 4 years. So they get to that median, which I think your words were, we should be paying maximum, but at least median. And this gets them there in a relatively short period of time, but it can be budgeted and we can control it. You know, part of this is, Louis, and I understand that you didn't have access to what we had, or didn't know, or whatever, but, you know, we pay 33% of their total benefit package is the health insurance and retirement. And so 50 cents for every dollar we spend, 40 to 50 cents of every dollar that is earned by an employee goes to benefits. Because we pay Social Security and pension, or we pay a majority of the health insurance, or we've seen already that our health package, our benefit package is better than everyone else's. So that has to be thrown in with this, the cost of the benefits.
That's true, but we only have 12 employees who are actually participating in the health insurance program, if you look at that far right column. So it's not everybody who's receiving that benefit. But it really doesn't make any sense to me to spend thousands of dollars in town money, string people along for 10 months and say, we're getting the salary survey, and now we got the survey, and I'm actually just following what Cody said when he made his presentation, which is, this is what you should do in order to, make your salaries competitive. He looked at every position. We're considering how much experience that person brings to the job. And then on top of that, the other thing that still bothers me is the three of you who have been on this council for many years voted to give yourselves a 64% increase in pay if you got reelected. And now we're here saying, well, we can't afford to give this person $1 an hour or to bring them up into a competitive position. It doesn't sit well with me. It makes us look. Can I finish? Can I finish?
5%.
Can I finish?
What do you mean $1?
Can I finish? It makes us, to me, it makes us look like self-serving, entitled politicians to give ourselves a raise, but then when it comes time to give a raise to the people who are doing the work, all of a sudden, we don't have the money.
What are you saying? We just gave them raises, and we're projecting to give them raises every year for the next 4 years in a row. I'm not following you because we are projecting to give them the money. First, you're saying that we're spending too much, and now you're saying we're not giving them raises.
I didn't say you're spending too much. I said you spent money on thousands of dollars on a survey that you don't want to
too
use.
much in payroll because it's higher than yours, but now you're saying we're not giving them raises. But we're projecting to make sure they get 5% raises over the next 3 or 4 years and give them to the median pay.
Yeah, but it doesn't address the particular positions and where those positions are in relation to the market, which is what we just went through the last.
Off the market survey.
No, it's not. No, wait a minute.
To get to that point.
The mayor said, you came up with this in June. This survey was shown to us in August. You did not use the survey to come up with this point.
No, you're right.
But we had been,
Go ahead. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of information that's been shared. So this year, what is I know for 20, I don't have, we're missing 1 year of information here. What is the current all-in cost in 26, or 26 is 1,728,720, is that correct? Right. All right, and 28, 27 is 1,812,229. Is that correct?
Yeah, 1,881.
All So, and for 26, what is your all-in cost, Louis?
$1,848,000.
1,848,000.
Well,
That would be for a full year. That would really be for 2020.
These are full years also, so just trying to.
yeah.
So,
1,848,000.
right,
What else? Was that it?
948.
And what would it be for the following year after that?
It would be the same amount unless the town's financial position allows us to give a step increase or a cost of living increase to our employees.
Okay, so you plan on, so no raises next year?
I would hope that we're in a position to give raises every year. But it's not guaranteed in this pay plan. It's not guaranteed in what the mayor handed us as well.
Well, no, what we all can, what the finance committee's put together is showing 5% growth. So all I like to do is compare facts. Earlier we started talking facts, and obviously some of them got skewed. So here, all I'm asking is what's the following year's all-in number for you? You're saying your plan's less expensive than our plan. I just want to know the facts. It may be. I hope it is. What is it? What's your number?
If I can interject for just a second.
Let me answer the question. So it's 1,848,948. That's the number I gave you. That's what it,
2027.
for 2027. Right, so that's it, that's the full amount. Correct, yeah.
All right, so you have zero increase year over year.
There's zero guaranteed, just like there's zero in here. If we have the money to give a step increase, to give a cost of living, and I hope we do, then we give it. But this is implementing the pay plan with not necessarily having a guarantee moving forward. That's what everybody kind of talked about before. What if we don't have money to afford the step for the next year? That's why I wrote it in the narrative form in the handout that I gave you tonight.
I don't know where you come up with $1,848,000 without benefits. I don't see the benefits.
But the hourly rates and the Deidre's budget spreadsheet, and I gave it to everybody at the last meeting.
I know, but
And it automatically computes what the benefits are and adds it to it.
All right, but let's just back up. It's like, this is, when we start talking salaries and people's pay, it gets very emotional, right? It gets very, who doesn't want to hand out raises? Let's face it, we have enough money, we can double everybody's pay. So where the money comes from or how much money we have is not the discussion point. Let's go back to what you said, that your plan is less expensive than ours. Plan year one for us is $1,728,720. That already includes this year's pay raises plus another 5%. The year after that's another 5%, puts us at $1,812,229 for a grand total of $3,540,949. And that does not take into effect any kind of increases on benefits, right? So we're just playing these numbers all the same. Lewis's number is $1,848,948. If we just, and then with no pay increase after that, assume investing, worst case scenario, that's another $1,848,948 for a grand total of $3,697.89 spent over the 2 years in combination. So that's a $157,000 error. It's kind of like the 40 years experience when we got 4. Let's look at facts. I want all our people to be extremely highly paid, right? So no, in fact, what you're proposing will give them a one-time bump, no further pay increases, and spend an extra $157,000. I like to just look at the facts so we can make an educated decision up here. That's what we're supposed to do. Do we have the money to pay the top pay in Cody's scale? Absolutely, we have the money. All right? We have it today. Are we going to have it 5 years from now, 6 years, 10 years? I don't know. But we can probably double everybody's pay. And when our terms are over, we're probably going to still have funds in the bank. But that's not how you manage money. It's not how you manage a business. I just like to look at nothing but facts. And the facts are, show me one person we have that is outside of the ranges that Cody wants us to be in.
That's not the purpose of the pay plan, the survey. It's just not the purpose at all. It's to, if you look in the report that he gave us, it's to take every position, evaluate every position, and place that position where it will be competitive in the market based upon the experience that the person has. But I want to point out that I did not put an effective date on my proposal. And the reason I didn't was because we can decide what the effective date is. If the effective date, for instance, were to be January 1st, we'd only have half of that increase that you're talking about. And we're already 3 months into the year, so it's not the $120,000 for this year either. So the math that you just gave was wrong. But we could, as we get further along in the fiscal year, and we see where we are, I mean, we're still in hurricane season. You know, we don't know what's going to happen through the end of October. And, you know, if we got hit by a hurricane, we might want to take that into account when we decide what our effective date is on implementing the pay plan. But to me, implementing the pay plan is what we just spent the last 10 months working on and getting the information from the expert. Again, that was not my decision. You, Tim Bounds, were the one who brought it to us. But I lost that vote. And I'm happy to say, I don't agree with everything in the pay plan. I think some of the starting pay is too low. But I'm willing to stand up and say, let's go ahead and implement it. Let's make our pay competitive in the market. And for the first time, let's have a pay scale that makes sense and is objective as presented by the expert that you, Tim Bounds, suggested that we go with.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim Bounds recommends it. SSA, I fully support what he's giving us. And I'm going to go back to my original question. Let's get away from the emotions. Point to me who's out, who's not where they need to be. All right, because I was surprised where we are. But who's not where they need to be based upon the recommendations of the consulting firm?
Everybody on this column that has a higher rate of pay. And this is only really going up to step 10. This is limiting the increases.
Just pick a name. I don't care who it is. Pick one.
William Joyner, we talked about him earlier. We're using the number of years that he has of full-time relevant experience to place him in a pay plan. When we asked Cody, how should we implement this? He said, hey, look, you need to do something that's objective, that you treat everybody the same way. And so that's why I'm taking this approach. We could say, let's put them up at step 20, but there'd be several other people at step 20, and then all of a sudden, it doubles the cost of implementing the pay scale. When I asked Cody how most municipalities implement a pay scale that he proposes, he said 90% do not implement it that way. They take a gradual approach. I can't remember the exact word that he used. Yeah, something like that. That they take the budget into consideration. That's what we're doing here. We're taking the budget into consideration and looking to see what can we afford. That's what I proposed here.
Louis, you said something a little,
Hang on, he hasn't answered my question yet. So William Joyner, you got him from 2410 to 25. Where is he at on the scale right now?
We haven't implemented the scale. He's not anywhere on the scale.
What step is he at? Is he within the barriers?
You keep talking like the point of the PACE survey was to make sure everybody is above the minimum. That's not the point of the survey. That's just not, you didn't apply it to your own salary when everybody voted to issue the raises last year, or 2 years ago, actually it was. And I'm not applying it to them here. We've got, if you want to know who's not where they should be based.
You just look at the facts.
It's all the facts.
Is he on there? Where is he? Where is he at on the step? What step's he on? I'm not in front, so. And you want to start getting accusational about it. Just trying to look at the facts. I have no idea what he is.
Yes.
I mean, he's currently at $22.95, right?
Yeah.
Okay, per hour.
It's at $24.10 an hour.
I was at the 2025.
Step one is that.
It doesn't work out exactly, but he's around at step 7. He's somewhere between step 7 and step 8.
Now, Louis, you said that Kyle recommended you've got different equipment operators here. You don't have which one he is on.
Kyle sent me, I don't know if he sent it to everybody, but he sent me and he sent Tim Bounds a breakdown of where the positions should fall. So they were either maintenance gas tech, or equipment operator. What Cody presented was something, maybe we work on down the road, but he literally had 5 different levels of equipment operator.
Well, yeah, if you go back and look, he had asterisks next to positions that don't exist, because it was things that Kyle's looking at doing in the future. Well, I found the information. So, yeah, joiner right now is between steps 7 and 8.
That's what I said.
Okay, so where are you wanting to take him to?
Step 10.
I'm sorry? Step 10.
10.
All right, so you want to take him to 2410 and 2542. And that's based upon what?
That's based
And
upon,
this is not a conversation about William. I don't want anybody to think that. I know it's on, but I'm trying to understand the thought process of how are we going to take all these people, other than it's something fun and nice to do. I want to give everybody a huge raise, don't get me wrong. But I'm just trying to understand why I should vote yes for more raises.
yeah, the thought process is that the pay plan is based upon each step, and the pay plan is an additional year of experience.
Where is that explained to us?
It's right there, it's right there in the pay plan.
All right, show it to me.
You ready? SSA has provided the town of Madisonville with a pay range system complete with appropriate levels based on years of experience. That's what it is.
I'm not trying to be confrontational, but trying to understand you. the thought process.
Based on appropriate levels, based on years of experience. This is what a pay scale is. You have somebody with this many years of experience, that's where they go in the pay scale.
All right, because then we asked for clarification on that, and I think the response we got was, place employees on steps corresponding to some predetermined parameters, which will apply equally across the board, such as years of experience. And it goes on to talk about what else people do, right? So if the steps are based upon years, we got to completely back up and start over. What I'm trying to figure out is, I can't speak for anybody in Kyle's department. I don't know. I see the condition of our town. I see the services we get, which are exceptional, but just tell you what each individual employee does. We got a 30-year, 10-year guy here. I don't know what his performance is. I can speak very, very detailed about the police department, because that's what Keith and I work on. But we're looking at some very, very hefty increases above and beyond what's already been done, and I'm just trying to wrap my brain around it. How is, other than, hey, this is a good thing to implement at this point in time, we got some money laying around, why not give it out? That's, to me, is not financial due diligence to our taxpayers. And I can't get a definitive answer about anybody as to why we need to do more. It's because what Cody says, this is where they should be based on years, but that's not what he clarified when we asked that question. That's why I specifically asked that question of him. Please tell me where we should put these people. And if you remember the night he was in here, he discussed it. All of your people within the range of where they need to be. You guys are in great shape. So I'm just trying to explain to me, other than it feels good or it's emotional, point to me why we're giving out 15, 20% more raises to certain employees, and not others while we're talking about it. Give me some facts to work with. I don't have that. We're talking about a lot of money. We're talking about a lot of people's lives. We're talking about a lot of tax dollars here. I'm just trying to understand it from a business perspective.
I want to say that my understanding of the range is that the minimum is the bare minimum of what we should offer. And the maximum is the absolute most that anyone in this area is being paid for those services. What?
I think you asked this question, Louis, or someone up here did, ask for clarity. I think it's a 20% buoy from the mean. Right? So there's likely people out there making more than this, and there's likely people out there making less.
This is what's recommended, right?
Yes, so what he came up with, because that was my concern when one of the initial discussions we had a few months ago, I'm like, where should our people be right now? And he says, I'm going to give you a range to work with that. So this is not the absolute lowest when you see minimum, and the maximum is not, the maximum is my understanding. These are 20% buoys based upon the median. And our median, if I also understand this correctly, because I was adamant, and the mayor was on this conversation, when we started with SSA, I don't want to compare us to government entities. Our people are eligible to be employed by private or public. So we want these numbers to come from private entities as well as local public municipalities. All right, so the private entities are going to skew up the pay, going to skew down the benefits. Public comparisons are going to skew down the pay and skew up the benefits. That's just the way the math works out. So my understanding is the pay ranges we have, the minimum and maximum, is not the minimum they found being paid out there or the maximum found being paid, but it's a 20% buoy from the mean of all the pays gathered from public and private. Am I understanding this correctly? Do y'all agree with that?
Yeah.
You said something earlier, Louis, that we did this without consideration of the wage study. That's not true. We were in constant meetings with Cody, so we had a lot of meetings going along. The study was not complete because he had, and you remember you helping, he had some real issue with getting the benefit packages. When we put this together, we knew what that median was. We knew what the minimum, median, and max was when we put this together. We put this together over several meetings, trying to get it right, and of course, it was, finally the study was shared with you in August, but we had been working on this already, because we saw where that money was, and our idea was to get the people at least to a median in a relatively short period of time, and that was our goal. To make sure that our people were being paid a fair wage in this market area. And that's where this is coming from. I just wanted to clarify what you said about we put it together without and ignoring the wage study. That wasn't true.
Well, I'd like to share with you, this concerns me, and I did a 5-year forecast on it. And as everybody knows, everybody's heard about Mandeville's situation where they did the aggressive pay raise, and it's non-sustainable, so they're scrambling to make ends meet over there in that particular category. But I took Councilman Ogle's number, and I plugged it in, and I'll just bear with me for a second. Put it in the Excel spreadsheet, and take in consideration the sales tax income. We are currently in a downward trend with businesses. Orlando's is gone, Llamas is gone, Ace Hardware is moving, River Mart's not opened back up yet, Water Street Bistro's gone. And that's not to say we'll have a business to come in and try and replace it, but that doesn't plug the particular time span where we do not have those revenue numbers coming in. With that being said, with your numbers plugged in, Louis, the police department would have an increase in pay of $28,454, and the benefits would be $20,425 for a total of $48,879. Maintenance and clerks increase in pay would be $62,067, and the increase with the benefits would be $44,552, which adds up to $106,619. Now, I took that in projection for year one, and this would be with a 3% COLA, cost of living raise. The first year would cost us an additional $155,498. The second year would be $160,163. Third year would be $164,968. Fourth year, $169,917. And the fifth year, $175,014. For a total,
Each year would be an additional.
each year would be an additional amount, which would total within the next 5 years an additional increase of $825,560. Now, we'd have to find where we were going to get those monies from. And that's taking your numbers. So that concerns me, because we have to be frugal with our tax dollars here. And we also have to stay prepared for the unexpected, just like Councilman Bound said, hurricanes, floods. The town's going to flood eventually, tornadoes, whatever it might be. But with the monies we have set in certain accounts in reserves, we can take care of it and not depend on FEMA, get the town back up and running to keep the residents safe and everything moving like it should.
The comment was made that we spent thousands of dollars for the study, and I'm glad we did, because there were doubts about where we were and if we were fair or in our hourly wage to compete or compare with the surrounding market. I think the study proved to us that we were, and that we were where we needed to be. Now, are we at the top of that study? No. And I don't think we'll ever be. We've got a very limited sized town, so our sales tax are always going to be very small. And so the study provided the information that we needed to know, and we didn't know before we had the study or paid for a study, a professional study, one that wasn't biased, wasn't emotional, it came in and done the study and provided the facts that we needed to move forward with. So I'm glad we did the study.
Well, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned the sales tax. What else goes into, what other money do we have available? We've got the property tax that's available to spend on anything, right?
Well, yeah, that's in the general fund.
The police department itself generates $15,000, $20,000 a month in fines, $200,000 a year. It's in the budget, and every year we've got that. If the police department wanted to, they could probably write $400,000 in tickets.
Maybe.
Yeah. So we've got other money, and it's not just the sales tax. It's other money as well that's available. But just for the sake of argument, because Tim said we got plenty of money to do this. He doesn't know about next year, but for the sake of argument, let's say that this sales tax, it was passed in 1965, 60 years ago. As I read it, it says we can spend some of that money on maintenance of recreational facilities, which to me would be spent on the maintenance people, on their salaries. So we're not really talking about their...
Well, no, just read the facts.
Yeah.
Read the facts. It doesn't say anything that I read, and you said last month that we read this differently, and I wanted to bring this. I'm glad it came up. Councilwoman Faison brought it up. I'm glad she did, because if we differ, tell me where we differ. On that highlighted area that you highlighted, tell me what can be spent on salaries. Where does it say salary at all, or any particular department?
It says maintaining and operating recreational facilities. How do you maintain the facility without paying somebody to do it?
Okay?
and then it says, maintaining, resurfacing, public streets. How do you do that without paying somebody to do it? Those two things specifically.
Bridges, acquiring and maintaining a garbage disposal site and garbage collection, equipment and purchasing equipment for all public works and departments. So,
I guess that's where we differ, that when I see maintaining, this was 60 years ago, but when I see maintaining, we've got people who we pay out of the salaries to do those things.
Well-
And then, but just for the sake of argument, let's say we couldn't spend any of that on salaries. This was passed 60 years ago. We could certainly go back to the voters and say, hey, look, we need a little bit more flexibility in this sales tax that was approved 60 years ago so that we can pay our employees a competitive wage and implement this pay scale that we just, paid for, so that we can fix the water system. Those are things that we could do if we wanted to. It's 60 years old. I think it's worth relooking that if that's the reason why we can't move forward with implementing the pay plan.
but we've implemented the pay plan. It's not that we haven't implemented the pay plan. We have a proposed pay plan of 5% over the next 2 years. We've had pay plans, so that it's disingenuous to say that we're not making pay increases. We are. We've made pay increases, and we've got a pay plan to continue to make a pay plan. So we have one that I think is very well thought out, and it is something that we can plan for and that we can maintain. And as Councilman Dennis said, we certainly, you've been out too long, I forgot you. We don't want to get in a situation of possibly appearing or not being able to fund the pay plans that may be that may be too high going forward. We want to be able to continue to fund the positions and the salaries that we do pass.
I have two fundamental problems with what you presented here tonight. One is that for the positions that are well below the market, giving them a 5% every year doesn't bring them up to the market the way it should if they're well below the market. We have some that under the pay scale proposed by Cody, they're already at their market level. So that's one fundamental problem I have. Another fundamental problem I have is that you seem to have singled out the part-time employees so that they don't get this 5% raise. And they're not where they should be. I mean, one in particular I've got on the list here, Greg Wyndham, is a part-time police officer. It just doesn't make any difference to me if he's part-time or full-time. He ought to be paid a competitive salary based upon he's doing the same police. I see him driving around, at night, taking night shifts and doing the same thing a full-time police officer does. So I don't know why he would be excluded from being in the pay plan where he should be.
Well, let me ask you, please identify anyone. You said that people that were below the recommended pay plan. Can you present anyone there in our department that's below their the pay plan?
I'm asking the same question. Nobody's below the minimum.
Well, you just said they were.
Below a competitive rate.
What you said is, you didn't say a competitive rate. You said below the pay plan, I think.
No, what he's saying is they're below the step 10 where he thinks they should be.
Oh, well.
We paid $17,000 and waited god awful way too long to get all this information to tell us where is our pay range, where should all of our people be? And Cody sat right here and confirmed it. Yes, we were able to make some adjustments early on into this year, giving everybody some sizable raises. And we have everybody in those buoys. Is it where Councilman Ogle thinks they should be? I don't, evidently not. But to say that they're not, that they're below is an absolute false statement based upon what the consulting firm has told us. So just give me some information as to why we paid more other than I think they should be paid higher. If that's what it is, that's fine. That's an okay opinion to have. But if so, just say it. Quit spewing out false information. They're not below. No one is.
I'm not giving anything that's false. He presented a pay scale that is based upon years of experience. So the person who has 1 year is going to make less than the person who has 20 years. You act like you've never seen a pay scale. I don't know how you made it through business without knowing what a pay scale looks like with steps for an additional year of service. It doesn't make any sense what you're asking.
Let's keep it civil, please. Keep it civil.
Yeah, so that was kind of a childish
I
statement.
think the biggest thing that we're running into,
We have a consulting firm that we brought in to tell us where the ranges should be. And he sat right here at that podium and said, your pay structure that you have in place is pretty much spot on, right? It doesn't say that if they've been here 10 years, they should be at number 10. If they've been here 12, they should be at step 12. It does not say that. That's why we specifically asked that. And I don't understand. If that's the way it should be, then by God, we got some more work to do. We're nowhere close, because this guy over here, we owe him a fortune. He's got 30 years. Right? That's not what the study came back with. That's not what he said. I just want to clarify that. And let's go ahead and start reading. We're going to talk about facts. Let's back up a little bit again. That's to say, consultants confirmed the town's benefits were competitive with some of the benefits packages in local markets. What exactly does that mean? That was for you, Lois. I'm sorry. I was reading your, I'm just trying to understand it. What does that mean?
The page specifically for where he looks at health insurance, he looks at, we talked about which, I don't even know if you were here at the meeting when we made the presentation, were you? Yeah. Okay. We talked about Social Security, that some municipalities pay Social Security, some do not. We talked specifically how Mandeville does, Folsom does, but it's optional. And he looked at leave benefits. So those are all in the charts there. I'm not arguing anything about the benefits. It is, we're competitive on benefits across the board. The only thing he pointed out really was in the leave benefits that some of the other municipalities offer more holidays or bereavement leave or something like that.
Yeah, they definitely offer more holidays, but there again, I like to look at facts. Let's look at a few facts. Just delve right into health benefits. Any idea how our health benefits compare to, you pick a municipality? You want Covington, Slidell, Hammond, Mandeville, Pearl River, Ponchatoula. I'm sorry, take Pearl River out because we don't have the correct information. Let's talk about how we compare to them.
It's,
Do Mandeville?
yeah, it's on page 13, or similar to Mandeville.
Really? And what do you think similar means?
Well, for instance, an employee pays $70 a month. In Mandeville, they only pay $61. In Mandeville, employee family is $175 a month. Ours is $70.90 per family member. So if you have two, that's going to put you at $141. If you have three, it's going to put you over what Mandeville is.
Right.
I'm just looking at what's in the chart that everybody got.
No, I hear you, and so I took those numbers. I'm glad you brought that up. You want to do family or employee only? Which one would you like to discuss first? You brought that up earlier in the meeting. That's a question for you. You want to discuss family? All right, so family, right now, if you work for the town of Madisonville, and you opt to do family coverage for health insurance, your cost per hour is $3.22 per hour less than every hour for an Mandeville employee. That equates to another $6,448.65 annualized. The one that's shocking, I won't get into Ponchatoula, but no, we like to talk about Mandeville. So that's it. I'm glad you brought that one up. So just taking that alone, that's direct money that comes out of you get paid need it, but it's useless money, so now you gotta turn right around and pay for it in your health insurance. So basically, if we're comparing to Mandeville right now, every one of our employees actually is making $3.22 more per hour. That's an add, let me rephrase that. That's an add, if you're currently making 20, that would be an additional, your benefits that you're getting from us are saving you $3.22 per hour that you work here, as compared to an employee in Mandeville.
Because we're paying them, and they're not.
Right, because, yeah, if you look at who's paying what, and you look, so that's the thing, I don't want to get caught up in the emotionals here. I want everybody to get raises. I'm all on board for raises. I like giving out raises, all right? But at the same time, you got to dig into, there's more too. So let's talk about business acumen, because you took a rather cheap shot earlier. So I run a for-profit organization, and just flipped it over to an equity firm last year for EBITDA, if you're not sure if you know what EBITDA is, but with a 22 multiplier. So I challenge you to ever match that. Back to that, let's start looking at business acumen. When we start looking at these things, there's a hell of a lot more that goes into business than just what someone makes per hour. It's our job to sit up here and analyze these things, right? My understanding is you have a tremendous HR background, so I would hope we can lean upon those experiences when we start talking about how do we implement employee evaluations moving forward, to implement those pay raises, because people should be, in my opinion, I may be wrong, since I'm one of 5 votes. Pay is made up of, yes, what your certifications are, what your experiences are, what you do, but also how good you are at what you do. It's in my line of business, I'm not sure if it's right or wrong, but the guys that are most productive and make me the most money, they make the most money. They make more money than someone else who has something, a union card and has a certification. So we have to look at all expenses involved, because it's our job to sit up here and diligently monitor the town's tax dollars. The financial growth we have made, we can sit here and argue over those tax forms. I appreciate you digging those up. I'll be honest with you, I didn't take the time to read them because I'm not a CPA. That's a CPA question as far as I'm concerned. We have money. We know that. So we can sit up here and argue what penny goes where. This town has the money to pay anyone on anywhere in this step 1 through 20 chart. But the fact of the matter is, where should we have our people at? That's what we got to focus on, not a broad paintbrush. So let's focus back on the police department, because there again, I like numbers. I like to dig into it. Right now, I did some scribble math based on this paper you just gave me. And trying to keep things fair, because we have employees that have come and gone in the department. But looking at 3 people that have been consistent in this department over the last few years. We're looking at, on top of the 23% we've already given out in the last 2 years, we're looking at handing out, in your proposal, another 12% immediately, where those same employees have had a 33% reduction in production. I'm curious, how far have we looked into each employee, what we're going to do for the ones that are performing, what we're going to do for the ones that are not performing? I want to give out raises, but someone has to convince me, after all we've done over the last few years, the ones we put in this year, and now wanting to throw out a bunch of more money, what's the basis besides it's an emotional play?
What's the production you're talking about? How many tickets they wrote, or what are you basing that on?
I'm basing it upon every statistic that they monitor in that department.
Is it primarily the tickets that they wrote?
No. I'm sure you've noticed in the meetings, the chief goes over them every month. It's I'll pull them up for you. They track traffic stops, citations, warnings, boat launch, moorings, accidents, arrests, and then it's a total.
The guy who works overnight when there's very little traffic, that person's going to be judged the same as someone who's, pulling people over left and right during peak drive time?
Absolutely not. What part of what I said drove you to think that?
Everything you just said.
Wouldn't that be specific?
You're talking about the police department. You're saying based upon their output as a police officer? You can't even explain. What are you basing that on?
I just put the numbers in front of you. I'm just asking you to do the same thing. You're again, we're playing on emotions. Now listen, I fully support these guys. I sit with this guy every month. We go through what can we do to get better, all right? We're trying to do everything we can. They went from a portable shed over here 9 years ago, however long ago. You weren't here then. Oh, you were. They were a portable shed, a shack that they were housed in, to what we have now. right? I'm all behind these guys. But what I'm saying is, when I start looking at how I'm gonna spend taxpayer dollars, I need more than an emotional play. So there again, what did I say that drove you to think that that I think a night shift officer's traffic citation account should be the same as the daytime? I took people from all shifts, I just took totals, that's it.
And I think you need to take into account if you're including how many tickets that they wrote, how many traffic stops they made. If there's little traffic overnight, you got to take that into account as well.
Right, I did it over a 24-hour period, so it's not taking day versus night. I just got the totals. All right, let's get more specific. I can say I love numbers, so I don't want to bore the town, but you know.
You guys remember, all this is based on the evaluation of a department manager.
This is total activity, year-over-year reduction. All right? So it's irrelevant if they work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, AM, PM, it doesn't matter. All right? And listen, we talk about, Chief and I talk about these things, all right? And it's why, what's going on. All I'm asking you is, have you looked at any of this stuff? Other than, hey, yes, I want to give these guys massive raises. But at the same time, have we looked? I can't speak like this for the maintenance department. You're on the maintenance board. I'm assuming you can speak to these guys. But we're talking about tax dollars now. We have a consulting firm that told us your people are in line where they should be. We have a consultant that told us your benefits are superior to the surrounding communities, even though we're tiny compared to them. All I'm asking for is give me something I can use mathematically that demonstrates why more raises need to be given out right now. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm not disputing it. I'm just asking for the facts.
You seem to have a fundamental disagreement with me about what these steps in the pay plan mean. You seem to disagree with Cody, who said each step is an additional year of experience. That's just what he said. That's how he put it out there. And then you also have a formal disagreement with me. I don't see any slackers when I look around and observe the people who are working. I see the maintenance staff out there working in the heat, working in the cold. They're digging by hand around utility lines in dangerous conditions. I see the police officers out there by themselves, often having to wait if they have to wait for backup and they're on their own overnight. You know, I don't see anybody slacking that I can say, well, this person doesn't deserve to be in the pay plan.
You're the only one that used that word. Slacker, you're the only one that used that word.
I see everybody being worthy of this, of what we have voted on and spent money on to get. And now we're at the point where we want to, okay, I've got a proposal to put this plan into action. And you don't want to.
So as well, it's a proposal as well for the next 4 years while we're still in office.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm sure it's on recording, go back and double check it. I complimented what our maintenance department does. I complimented what our police department does. All I'm saying is, I'm hoping to be able to compliment your plan. If you can give me something to work with besides emotions, because Cody did not say this plan is based upon years. He said that's one way you can possibly implement it, and then from year to year, you can look at moving them from step one, step two, based on if they meet the HR requirements, the performance requirements, et cetera. That's exactly what he has in black and white. So that's all I'm asking. I'm not trying to argue with you, Lewis. I'm trying to understand it. I mean,
That's the way a municipal pay plan works. It's based on years of service. And that's just the way it works. I understand it. The other thing you said, you know, regarding what we pay for benefits, we only have 12 people on our health plan. And so in the report it says, SSA reviewed regional peers benefit package, which includes leave, sick leave, health insurance, retirement, noted that the regional peers contained within this comparative section are much larger than the town of Madisonville and thus may be able to negotiate better rates than what is available to the town. Regardless, the town of Madisonville still directly competes for talent with all the municipalities listed. It's not relevant to me, to the employee, what we pay. We are a smaller town, but the reality is that we're still competing with these other towns for employees.
I agree with that, but just what's relevant to an employee is what they have to pay for their benefits. It's irrelevant what we pay, right? So it's interesting because I think it goes right back to, I don't know who negotiates our insurance policies, but look at the health. You're paying $7.90 a pay period, right, with a zero deductible. Right? If you go to Mandeville, the numbers you mentioned earlier, $61, but you're paying a $2,000 deductible. So yeah, the 61 sounds great compared to $70, but that's an additional $1,000 out of your pocket. So we have very, very good health insurance. I was actually surprised when I saw that, which is wonderful. So it's not what we pay, and I've never mentioned that tonight in my numbers. It's what they pay. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep pointing at Calvin. That's what's important, is what has to come out of their pocket, out of their hourly rate that they're paying, right? What comes out of their pocket. So I may pay him $100 an hour, but if it costs him $89 an hour to work here, he's making $11, no matter how you slice it. That's all I'm saying is, listen, I want to be in the boat of handing out big raises, but give me something to work with besides an emotional play.
I look at this pay chart also as a tool for the town to use if we were replacing or looking for an equipment operator, if we were looking for a gas employee technician, if we were looking for a maintenance person. It gives us a range and a target to use to be able to hire someone. So it's not only a table for the employees that are here today, but it's also a table and a chart that the town can use moving forward when we're hiring a new town clerk or a new police chief or a new maintenance supervisor or any one of the lists there. It certainly provides a tool for the mayor and the department head to certainly negotiate a starting salary.
Let me just point out one other thing to Tim, since, he said the police pay was kind of his area of expertise and experience here. Our highest paid police officer, with the raise that we just gave, makes $22.68 an hour. The lowest paid police officer in Mandeville makes $24.23 with 0 years of experience. We have people with 30 years of experience making $22. And Mandeville pays $24 with someone with 0 years of experience. That to me says, no, we're not where we need to be right now. That's the whole point of doing the survey, so that we could find out where do we need to be and start moving in that direction.
No, that's a good point. And that's what I like to hear. Numbers are facts. So let's, and yeah, Mandeville's hard for us to compete with. All right, if we think we're going to compete with that department, it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I don't think we do need to, and one of the reasons I don't think we need to is what you just pointed out, which is that they have a deductible on their health plan, and we don't have a deductible. So that's, for someone who uses the health plan, that's money in their pocket.
Yeah. So, but where I'm going, so let me finish up here. It's that's when you look at the towns that we're being compared to, it's statistically it's an odd comparison. But the fact of the matter is, they're eligible to work for any other municipality. It doesn't have to be our size. So I'm glad Cody included all the big municipalities around us. But Mandeville's a prime example. I don't know why we love comparing ourselves to Mandeville, but I'm sure you're watching the news. I'm sure you're watching what's unfolding over there, because I've had a keen interest in their meetings lately. They've now have realized they've overextended themselves, and so now it looks like they're looking at a possible deficit in the very near future. That's what I don't want to see us end up with, right? Look, teachers and police officers. God bless every one of you that do it for a living, right? It's a shame, and I get it. But all I'm asking for is give me some more reason as to why we need to pay more out. Because what we have done, we have taken the pay periods, we have taken the pay plans for every one of our people. They're within the buoys that a professional organization says we need to be in. And on top of that, we're looking at what do we do over the next few years to even give them higher raises, which is budgeted right now. If I say preliminary budget, it's forecasted, right? Which then moves them either to the center or above center of where they are on the scale for Cody, right? No, I appreciate what Cody did for us. I don't appreciate how long it took, right? But Fortune was able to get some pretty close numbers early on with money, which helped us with the budget this year. But no, I am proud to say that, yes, we hired this firm. I stand firm behind them with my request to use them, and we're absolutely in compliance with what he's recommended we did.
Well, let me give you another number then.
Looking forward, how do we continue to move this thing forward? And I think this is something that needs to be reviewed, if not every other year, at least every new council and mayor, every new administration. And then I think another thing we haven't implemented yet is we got to start looking at this thing from, which I'm hoping you can help with, an HR perspective. Because in the past, you've indicated you've got a lot of HR experience, is putting in formal evaluations, all right? And recognizing the people that are doing superior jobs, and how can we get them up the scale faster? All right, we've got to reward the people that are producing for us. I may be wrong, maybe that's not a municipality's work, but I would certainly hope that's where we're going towards. And it entices people to go out and get more education, to get more certifications, to be better at their jobs, right? It's just trying to find ways that you can self-motivate and also give them something to aim for, because if they don't see that in the future, well, why would they do more? It's common business sense to me, at least.
Yeah, let me just give you one other number, too. If we implemented the pay plan the way I have proposed, our highest paid police officer patrolman would be $24.41 an hour. That's only, and that's with 30 years of experience, some of them. That's only 19 cents an hour above what a starting policeman makes in Mandeville. I also want to point out, that we've got 3 municipalities on here that the employee pays $0 toward their own insurance. So when I say our benefits are comparable or competitive, I think they are across the board. They're competitive. And I'm not proposing any change to the benefits. But the salary is part of the equation when you're an employee trying to make ends meet in an area that has, I pointed out it when Cody was here, out of 7,000 zip codes, we've in the state, we're number 5 for the housing cost. Number 4 is right across the river at western part of Mandeville. Those are things that we also have to take into account, what our employees are dealing with, the rising cost just of having a house around here.
Yeah, it's,
We said something a couple of times about, we gave 18% raises last year. We're going to continue to give, but you're talking about another 15% raise in addition to the 18%. And it's got to be budget conscious. It has got to consistently be budget conscious, budget conservative, and still keep giving them the raises they deserve.
let's go back and touch on a point, because there again, it's easy to sit here and spit things out. But let's go back to the towns that pay 0, where the employees pay 0 for their health insurance, I'm assuming you're referring to. Is that correct, Louis?
Yes, correct.
Right, and that's, you mean for the health insurance, right?
Right.
Okay, so let's look at that. Covington's the only municipality that actually is better, superior to us in the health insurance. And now we've switched modes again. When you look at that, the 0 is only for the ones who do employee only, not the ones that do employee and family. So let's focus. We're gonna change strides here. We're gonna reposition ourselves, and we're gonna go one of those numbers you just talked about. All right, Covington's 0. All right, and what's amazing, so they have a $1,500 deductible though. All right, so that's not free. So, but when you do the math, at hours at 70, 90, paid 26 times a year, that comes out to $1,843.40. If you were to assume a 40-hour work week and you worked, 52 weeks out of the year, you're a full-time employee, that equates to basically 89 cents an hour that you work goes towards your health benefits. If you're in Covington, they cover it all, but you have a $1,500 deductible. All right, so that equates to a 72 cents an hour cost to the employee. Moving down, Hammond's the same way. They cover it all, but their deductible is $3,000. So when you do the math, that equates to $1.44 an hour that you work. It goes back to pay for that. All right, the third one is Ponchatoula. They're off the charts, especially when you get to family, but let's focus on employee only. They have a $3,000 deductible also. All right, so that equates to $1.44 for every hour you work. But let's go back to the original conversation when we started benefits. We wanted to talk about family and employee because we have several of those. Covington, it's $298.20 per cost period. Annual cost with the deductibles comes out to $10,753. That equates to, for a full-time employee, that equates to $5.17 per hour. That's $4.28 per hour higher than us. All right, other town that has a zero is Hammond. All right, but when you do family, it costs you $617.47. All right, so it gives you an annual out-of-pocket cost of $22,054, which equates to an annual cost of $10.60 an hour, which is $9.72 more per hour that they work that they have to pay to back pay this. Ponchatoula they're bizarre. I can't fathom they have anybody that does family coverage in Ponchatoula. Their cost per hour compared to ours is $18.51. I can't imagine being an officer making, let's say they make, wrong what they make, but let's say $25 an hour. And it's cost, if you do family coverage, it's going to cost you $18.51 an hour. It makes, and so I like to dig into these things, and that's what I'm talking about, digging deep, getting the actual numbers. What does this mean? That's money. We talk about benefits doesn't buy me a gallon of gas. It doesn't buy me a loaf of bread when I go to the store. But what it does, our package puts more money in their pockets when they go into that store because they're ultimately spending less on health insurance. Other than Covington, if you do employee only, they're 17 cents better than us. So kudos to Covington.
You know, as far as the police department goes, you also have to consider that we contribute to Social Security and what the police department does. What that dollar amount is, I didn't look at it. But
I didn't look at that because if it wasn't something that we could equally and impartially compare across the board,
right.
all right, to me that muddies the water. Yeah, it's a benefit for us, but we can't compare it to everybody's no way of dollarizing it. So I didn't, yeah, it is. But no, I think this administration and our administration is doing a phenomenal job of putting our town in a very financial positive position. I want to see the continued growth in all of our benefits packages, all of our hourly pay, especially for these guys wearing the blue. That's who I work closely with. All right, we've taken them a long ways, have made some dramatic improvements, and I hope we continue that. And this year's budget was reflective of some of the numbers that we thought that we were going to receive. Therefore, you see the raises that were given out this year, and it's going to be parlayed next year, assuming we don't have some kind of huge financial crisis of another 5% and parlayed another 5% after that, assuming we don't have any kind of financial crisis. So my recommendation from the council meeting, so it's irrelevant, but that's my thoughts.
And I just think it's unacceptable that our highest paid police officer with 30 years of experience makes $2 less per hour than a Mandeville police officer. Yeah, and Mandeville, by the way, Cody said they pay Social Security and Folsom pays Social Security. Overall, across the state, he said it was kind of uncommon.
I think Folsom pays one or the other. I think that's what he said.
Who did you say, Folsom?
Okay. In Mandeville. Yeah. Okay, listen, we've expressed ourselves and our plans have been presented. Certainly there's no vote on this. If there's nothing new to add to this, can we move on? Okay. All right. Next thing on the...
You know, I've been interrupted. I can't count how many times tonight. It's been honestly egregious. I'll wait until our next council meeting, and I'll have plenty to say. That's all I'm going to say tonight.
The floor is open if you'd like to speak.
No, I think that emotional is the theme tonight, and if I speak right now, I'll be emotional. I've witnessed the emotions all night tonight, and I'm going to refrain from that.
Okay. We'll move forward and go into the public communications proposal. There was a proposal that was presented at the last month's meeting, for a communications person, and actually put it on the agenda because we, whether we want to move forward on that, or if we want to discuss it further, or if we just want to table it. Is there any other discussion about that position that needs to come out?
Gina, I'm still working on a recommendation for that for you. I would like to see a position formed. What was presented at the last meeting, I don't think is the fit that we need personally, but I'd like to present that, what I would recommend.
Well, you and I met, and certainly I welcome that information and your thoughts. So please send them when you do complete them. Does anyone else have any thoughts or comments about the presentation?
I think adding a position when, after everything you guys have said about can we continue to afford to give raises, makes no sense to me. However, Sammy, who made the presentation, has been basically providing services to the town for free as a volunteer. My understanding of your role as the mayor is you've got some money in the budget for town events.
For events, yeah.
That you could start to pay her something for the work she's doing, and I think that would be entirely appropriate, given the fact, I don't know, I think she's been working for free for 10 years. It seems kind of abusive to me, and I think part of her coming here was just that, hey, I can't continue to do this, it's too big without some type of compensation. She had a couple of things in there that I think were well beyond the scope of what I would be interested in, like a newsletter or going out and doing a survey to everybody in town, but that's just my input.
Listen, she obviously is a tremendous volunteer for the town, as all the positions for any function as no one's ever been paid. So certainly that wasn't a reason for coming. Her reason for coming, I guess, was because she had either seen council meetings or read council minutes or had someone speak to her that said we were looking to provide more public information to our residents and that we needed a position to do that. So that was brought up at several different council meetings, that we needed more information furnished to our residents sooner, and she assumed, and certainly I'll tell you, I did. I thought that's what the council wanted. So I mean, Kristen and I had spoke after the meeting. She certainly has some feelings about the position and what how it could benefit our residents and community. But when it comes to hiring someone, if we hired someone, certainly I appreciate what you said, because we need to recognize the people that have participated and helped the town in the past. So if there's some way to do that, we sure should.
I think the question for the council is, would you like to see a position formed for specifically public communications, or do you think that we need to have that combined with someone that also manages events and social media? I mean, what Sammy came and presented to us included a lot, right? And to be fair, I think what she was suggesting would really be a full-time position. And I told Jean this when I came and met with you, but I'll say it here. Volunteers are the backbone of how communities are run. And I will never, ever, ever say a bad word against anyone who volunteers their time for us. So when I say that what she recommended was not necessarily the fit that we need, it is not based on my lack of respect and appreciation for the volunteering that she does for our community. But as a council, we need to decide, do we think that we need to spend money on social media presence? That's something to me that's an entirely different division of what we had discussed in previous meetings as far as communications on needed information, right? Versus just general communication about town events and town happenings, right? So we need to all, as a group, decide what direction we want to go in, and then we can form, okay, how do we want to look for this person? Who do we think will be a good fit? Do we need them to be here physically in the office? Do we want to hire an outside consultant like Sammy, or do we want a new full-time employee? Does anybody have any thoughts or suggestions from their opinion on that?
My primary one is, after hearing from everybody tonight, we need to pay the employees we have before we add another position. To me, that's like a non-starter to even be thinking about that. But I do believe we need to improve communication. And my goodness, you and I have talked about that multiple times. We've discussed it at the council meetings. You know, just to give you an example, I think the mechanisms are in place, but maybe not the process. But to give you an example, you know, our last boil water advisory, you know, we got a robocall and it said these streets, and didn't make a whole lot of sense. And then I saw a Facebook post from the town that said the north side of town. Well, we all know what the north side of town is, but I bet you 90% of people in town, we think they all listen to the meetings, but I'm pretty sure they don't. They don't know where the north side starts. It starts right by the mayor's house. But, you know, my daughter had twins a couple of months ago, and she went into the hospital on a Friday. And that week I was thinking, you know what, I need to pay my water bill by this weekend, because it was due on the 20th. So the 17th, 18th came up, she's in the hospital, I forget about everything. By Sunday night on the 20th, I hadn't paid my water bill. The first call I got on the morning on Monday was from the town telling me, hey, you didn't pay your water bill. To me, I find that kind of offensive, that we can't get these other things right. The mechanism is there, we have to have the right process. If we can get it right, hey, you didn't pay your water bill, we can get the other things that are really more important than the water bill being a day late. It was actually 8 hours late by the time I got the call.
I think that's a perfect example of years of a small town effort to keep from cutting anyone off. We make 2 courtesy calls to people who are late prior to doing that, and certainly do go above and beyond. So my hat's off to the administration and this side of the aisle for the efforts they make. Now, again, I think everything's in place, and certainly it's improved because we you know, if we take it back just a few years, we probably did nothing. So certainly things have improved as far as notifications for a robocall, for instance, or a noticed a text message or whatever it be. So things are in place. It's improving. Is it perfect yet? I bet there were some people on the list that possibly did not get a phone call, you know, that were late. I don't know, but it's a human error at times that a street is overlooked when we put out the well water advisory. And certainly once we were notified that street was omitted in error, then a second notice was put out, including that street. So human error happens, but I do believe that the administration has improved in their job to notify our residents when they need to be notified.
I agree with that, but getting back to what Kristen said is, when we're talking about, I mean, talking about boil water advisories, are we talking about bills, are we talking about social media and maybe newspaper contacts, are we talking more about that, or a vet coordinator? And then with that, then I don't know the two should be together, but man, I don't know, I would love to see more events in town. I'd love to see more things happen in town. And that's always taken volunteers to make it happen. I'd love to see it. I don't know enough, or I don't like it enough to be understood of what we should need as far as social media contacts and newspaper contacts. And we do what we're supposed to do. We put out notices, we advertise in the newspapers for our ordinances. And I don't know how far we want to go with this. I'd love to see more events, but I mean, do you hire contract people to do that? You know, find somebody to say, hey, if you bring events to town, you know, I don't know even how you do that. Pay 10% of what we bring. I don't know. So I don't know that we need this yet.
Do we table this? I guess. Go ahead.
Well, like what Louis said, we could easily put in a script and a set of rules that every time, you know, residents need to be notified of something that's rather important, these are the steps that we take. We can write it down and say, this is the rules we're going to follow, instead of approaching each individual situation as, oh, well, I guess we can do these things. So that way, when whoever is in charge of this goes to do it, they know exactly the steps that need to take, and hopefully eliminate some of that human error, right? I agree that at this point, with all of the salary stuff, bringing in another employee with more money to spend probably wasn't the wisest thing for us to do in this moment, right? With that being said, I think the quickest and best way for us to improve and remove the human error is to come up with a specific standard of practice. Literally have a script. I mean, that way they just copy and paste and then fill in the blanks every time. I mean, Deidre, go ahead.
That's not how our billing system works where the robocalls go through. Because if the street's different every time, it's not a copy and paste. You have to make a script, and that's for that one thing only.
So it's, you go into your, you're still using the billing system to send the robocalls and texts. So I think that's something that we could probably assess as well, because I'm not sure that that's the best case scenario. I'm more than happy to help look at that and assess maybe a better program that isn't costly. I know that you mentioned that the text messaging system that you were using is costly because it's character-based, correct?
That was the ones that, like, they were signing up on the website for. The SMS texting through the billing system is not costly at all. But again, it has to go through the billing system.
Unless they signed up, right?
But the precautionary boil water advisory, you only do it to the people that we have 6,000 gas customers, but only 400 residents have water, so we can't send a mass call to everybody. You actually have to go and pick each street in town. So if one of the girls just happened to miss, say, Renee Street, then those people don't get called, but you have to go and actually pick every street individually and put them in a list, and that's how it goes.
Can you have a preset list?
You can, but it can't change. Like, if we said we have all the north side streets, but say it doesn't include one street, that street's still gonna get the message.
And I didn't mean to answer for you when that question was asked. I think if we're looking at things that have happened in the past, and we can say, hey, if this boil water advisory needs to go out on the north side of town, we can have a predetermined list of streets that we don't overlook somebody in the future. So,
Right.
yeah, so, yeah, we can make corrections and we can certainly improve on what we're doing.
At bare minimum, we could have a residents only list, right, that just within the town, and send out messages that specify streets that are affected if needed. I mean, that's just another way around this. I guess my point is, using the language to specify versus the system might be easier. I don't know. Are you limited in the amount of time whenever you send the robocall, the verbal robocall?
Well, we want to get it out as soon as possible in that
Oh,
situation.
no, I mean like in the length of the message.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not that I know of, but we can check on that.
Okay.
And again, I guess, listen, I've heard from two of y'all. If there's anyone else that really thinks that this might not be the right time, then we can contact Sammy and just say, hey, that position's not going to be funded.
Excuse me, Mayor. I just want to let everybody know, and you can let your constituents know when the robocall comes out, if they don't say hello, it will not activate. So you can wait on the phone a minute before you get a message.
That's helpful. I think that's good information. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's very good, because it happened to me. That's how we found out. I got the robocall, I answered because I knew it was coming. I answered on my phone,
And nothing
and I
happened.
was waiting for this message, because I wanted to hear the message, and nothing came out for 4 minutes. And I said, well, wait a minute, something's wrong. So then when we inquired, it has to be activated by a voice.
I think my only other question, we've been told that only one phone number can be attached.
So you have to list the account that's primary. And now what we're running into is, especially with the late calls that Lewis said, is when people get shut off, they're telling us, well, you didn't call, and we'll verify the number, and they'll say, oh, that's my old number. We don't know if you changed it.
Right. Well, I'm not sure I have a solution for that part, but that's another story entirely. I'm just really, more than one person lives in a home, right? And I think that's another concern that I have is my husband gets the calls. He doesn't even know how to log in and pay the bill. I pay the bill. So I wonder if there's not another way to work around, and that's something I can come and look at. And I don't mind looking at it with you and digging around. I think finding a solution for that would be great as well, to make sure that everybody's getting it and not just one person in the household. You would think they'd communicate with one another, but humans are humans and we make mistakes, so.
Another issue we have currently is the rental properties. The bills go to the owners of the properties, correct?
That is only if the owner has the utilities set up in their name. Most renters or leasees come in with their lease and put it in their name, and so they would get the calls.
So in our case, Keith, it's about to be solved because they're putting water on Fifth Street, but we currently cannot split the bill for our two tenants. So that's why it's set up where that it's a one payer and it's the owner that pays it. So once the water is run down Fifth Street and we'll be able to divide it, then that won't be an issue for us.
What I'm moving towards is the owner, they have to take on the responsibility of contacting their renters, say there's a boil water advisory.
Exactly.
So that's the only way that they're going to know it.
If they're the one paying the water bill, then yes, absolutely.
Correct.
Okay, without a vote, but with if this is a position that we're not going to fund, I can contact the person and at least tell them that we're not funding it this year. We don't normally take a vote, but I've heard from Lewis and I've heard from Kristen. Does anyone else have a feeling about that?
I'd like to hear the proposal from Kristen to see what she's gonna come up with to compare what Sammy has proposed to the town, before I make a decision.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, then we'll keep it on the
Yeah, I mean, I
agenda.
think it's, to step back a little bit, I think it's nice that we're having this discussion. That now, trying to get more information out, and it's not getting out as effectively as we'd like, or as timely, or as accurately, right? I think that shows tremendous progress. And she asked, did any of us have any opinions? I know I'm curious to hear more from Kristen, because this is, from what I can tell from all of us sitting up here, this is her cup of tea,
Yeah.
right? And I'm gonna lean heavily upon what she says, so I'm anxious to hear more, but I'm just glad to hear that we're having this conversation. Hey, listen, we get these robocalls out, we get these messages, but we're messing it up here, we made a mistake here, we're learning from it, right? Yeah, I'm curious to see it become more
Kristen,
efficient.
can you?
I'm glad to put, yeah, I'm glad to put something together. What I will focus on is to make sure that what I would recommend is based on a cost savings approach, where it's most likely a part-time position.
Will you have that for next week's
Yes,
meeting?
absolutely.
If you would have it, I mean, we'll keep it on the agenda.
Yep.
And just, if you would, send that to all the council and myself.
I should be able to get it to each of you in plenty of time to review before the next meeting.
Okay, all right. Stacy? Yeah.
Yeah, when you were talking about the calls, I normally get a late call for the water because I pay it on the first. But I'm thinking that I haven't received a late call for probably the last 2 or 3 months.
Maybe you paid it early. I mean, on time. If you're not on the late list.
I'm paying it late because I'm paying it on the first. When the bill comes out on the, so is that, I don't know, but I know I used to get the late calls and I paid the late and keep the other, keep the constant.
Yeah.
Then I was able to catch up. But I'm still paying it on the first because that's when I get the retirement. But I'm not getting any phone call as I did before saying it's due on the 20th.
Yeah.
So,
I'm-
and it's the same phone number.
You know, I guess.
Same phone, but it's the same phone.
Yeah, I guess if you pay it here, you can inquire at the front desk. I don't know. Okay. Moving to operations and maintenance, committee members, Councilman Ogle, Councilman Dennis. First thing on the agenda is the lighting ordinance. Lighting ordinance is there. Last time there was some conversation as to whether or not we really needed one, or if we wanted to continue moving forward on this or not.
Yeah, I think Brad was absent that meeting, and Keith and Tim both really didn't want to move forward with it. Kristen and I did. So Brad, it's up to you. I wrote, the mayor asked any of us to write something, so as usual, I did, and presented it, and that's where we are, kind of an impasse, two thinking that we should move forward with something, the other two, no.
What was the negative discussion on or the reason not to move forward?
Well, the request all along was for each of you to submit something in writing so that Bruce could move forward with it and trying to prepare something. Lewis has something since in it, whatever, but the discussion ensued about whether or not, once the one complaint that we had was addressed and the lights were addressed by CLECO, they made an attempt to go adjust the lighting. Was that complaint still there, or did we solve that problem? And whether, if we solve the problem, do we really need to go into more laws, more, what's the word I'm trying to find, but you know, I mean, are we going to regulate everything that comes to us as a one-time problem? You know, do we have a problem? And just over-regulations seem to be the thought against moving forward with the lighting ordinance. And if I misstated that, please.
No, I think that's an accurate representation of our discussion.
I think we use government oversight. Do we really need that much more government oversight?
I think we only need more government oversight when residents can't resolve it amongst themselves. That's really what it comes down to, right? I think majority of the time, we're going to end up in a situation where you talk to your neighbor or you talk to the business owner and it gets resolved pretty quickly, no problem. So I guess our question to ourselves is, do we write the ordinance to not end up in a situation where residents are fighting with one another, or do we just wait until that moment happens, right?
I like the idea of a softening of the, or to keep it from getting worse, I guess. I don't like government oversight. But we can table it for now. I mean, if it becomes something we need to readdress, we'll readdress it.
Liz, I have Lewis did write a fairly simple ordinance, and I have it pulled up here. It's not as robust as the one that we got from Al that they did in Covington, and that one was, that was excessive for what we need, right?
Absolutely.
I think that we have this if we feel like we need to move forward with it. It's an option. It's
Do you
kind of ready to
feel
go.
like we need to move forward?
I don't think I've seen Lewis's rewrite.
Brad, can you just read it like before our next meeting and put it back on the committee agenda? I
That's a
mean,
good idea. Why don't we just do that?
I think I emailed it to you, so I'm hoping it's in your email, but I'll email it again. Kristen's helping me out.
Why don't we do this? Why don't you just email it to everyone again so that it's fresh? It could be, and we'll leave it on the agenda for next month. Next thing is the sign ordinance amendment. I'll ask our town attorney, he's working on it. It's not complete, but he's certainly made a huge step forward.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it's been somewhat of a challenge because we have multiple different zoning districts. And so consequently, I got to go review every single zoning district to determine whether or not the ordinance needs to be amended with regard to signs. So I have it completed in a very, very first draft form. I have it right here, and it's in my own handwriting, so I don't know if it's going to, for the most part, I did make some insertions with some type materials, and I have enough copies here to hang it out, okay? So we can hand it out today and just look at it and see what I've done if you have any questions about it, but it's just, I have to reread it. There may be some errors here and there with regard to the many different types of provisions, because each zoning ordinance is different. Some of them don't even have any provision with regard to signs, and so I had to insert a whole new one. And the rest of them that did, well, some of them weren't even relevant because you can't put any buildings in some of the zoning districts, okay? But the ones that did have signs, I had to extract out with regard, but not extract out those that were relevant to warehouses, businesses, and that type of stuff, just with regard to real estate signs and stuff like that. And then insert where I extracted out the temporary sign provision. Okay, so I have it here. If you all want to take a look at it, if you can read my handwriting, fine. If not, then
Bruce,
okay.
I'll kind of just give you my opinion. I've dealt with you for a long time, and your first draft is not going to be what the proposed presentation is going to look like. I see no benefit. You can give it out if people want it, but I know to your credit, you're going to read it, we're going to type it, you're going to read it, we're going to type it, you're going to read it, and we're going to, before it gets to your final presentation. So, and that's not a knock, that's a compliment. So.
Sounds like a knock to me, but that's okay. But, and you're right, most of the time. We've been going back and forth on the sign ordinance,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not gonna go.
Listen, if the council wants it, and you've got copies of it, I have no problem with that. I think they're gonna see it by the time you propose it, I think they'll see it different.
Well, my biggest challenge now is have somebody to type it, so that means they gotta read my handwriting. So I can get it to you certainly by the council meeting or before, okay, but.
Yeah. Well, I think to list it on the agenda for next month.
Okay.
And to present it to them. And we can send it out a week in advance so that they can start reviewing it. Let's do that.
Do that.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Okay.
And it's, I promise you, that wasn't a knock on you. It may be on your handwriting, but not on the end result.
There is no excuse for my handwriting.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask Bruce a couple of questions? One of the things that came up that I think we were all concerned about is the size of the Piggly Wiggly sign, that it doesn't, it's probably beyond that 50 square foot, that doesn't really bother anybody, and could we address that some way in the final version? And then the other thing that I wanted to just ask you about was, we had discussed putting a limit on the time frame for political signs. And Shannon and I were in Florida last week, and there's a guy there who has the most obnoxious political sign you've probably ever seen. It's like 30 feet tall by 10 or 15 feet wide. And he went through the court system, and the court found in his favor that he could display that whenever he wants to. And as a matter of fact, he had 2 of those signs up on his house when we first got there, and then he switched it out for a brand new one. We've got people in town who have flags related to an election that happened 4 or 6 years ago. Does that count as a political sign? I just ask you to look and see make sure we're not getting into legal trouble on whatever restriction we put on the political signs. When I suggested that the limit, I was really talking about our local elections here in town, because the national elections, senators coming up, those signs go up well before the election, sometimes a year before.
I wouldn't want it. We can regulate those also.
That was the original discussion, was the time frame. That it should be up within 30 days before an election and taken down within 10 days after.
Well, I believe we discussed this, but so you know, I don't mention political signs, okay, for a reason. And the signs that I do mention, are temporary signs. In fact, I define a temporary sign to mean any sign that is erected for a limited duration in connection with a specific event, activity, or purpose in which is not intended to be permanent. Such signs include, but are not limited to, signs which advertise sales, political elections or campaigns, construction projects, property sales, rentals, or community events. I do not want to highlight political signs. It's just one of many, and so they're all treated alike. And then we have a time period in there, as we've discussed, and then something about the content, and then also the size, not more than 6 square feet. In square footage, 6 square feet in total area, and 6 feet in height. Okay.
And the time frame was for any temporary sign, so it's not specific to political.
That's right.
So question, something like the Piggly Wiggly. Isn't there what do you call it? When you've been there already, but in a
Grandfather.
Isn't there a grandfather clause?
It's called non-conforming uses. It is in the ordinance, but typically when that sign has to be repaired or replaced, like let's say after a hurricane, it says you're going to bring it back into conforming use, which I would not want to put on the Piggly Wiggly. If there's no, I don't know, something we need to look at.
It was blown down in our last one, and it's only allowed to be put back up, so.
Okay. If anybody has any recommendations or ideas, get them to me, okay? Because I want as much content as possible so I can put it together.
Anything else? No other que- Okay, moving to Parks and Recreation Committee is Councilman Haddock, Councilwoman Faison, and Town Park Improvements is listed. Did y'all have that listed for any reason? No. I know. No. And the reason for listing that was the additional stuff that we applied for. Well, we truly don't know if we're going to get it. Yeah, they said the money was available.
Like the fencing?
We applied for it. They've given us an extension, but at this time, there's nothing to report because we haven't been awarded that additional money. So there's really no report there.
I do have an update on the riverfront with the pedestals. I don't know who he works for, it's Micah Cephalou. He came back out and changed the way that there's the 4 units out there, right? We'll call them hubs, just for the sake of being easy. The one that's the furthest south was having issues communicating, and it was initially set up where it was trying to communicate directly by itself, or skip over and go to the main one. There's one main one that's in front of Morton's that talks to the town, right? That one is the one that sends everything over here. Well, each one individually shoots its information to that one, right? That one on the end, on the south side, for whatever reason, was just not communicating well. So he changed it. It's going to communicate to the one in the middle, and then it gets sent over. I'm over-explaining all this, but I kind of want you guys to understand why it's taking so long. And there's been some filming, but he's got some equipment out there, and it seems to be working. We're not seeing the dropout of those pedestals over there anymore. With that being done, I am still waiting. I'm going to speak to Kyle tomorrow, actually. I have it on the agenda to call him in the morning. He said he did get an answer. There was an issue with the breakers. I believe we talked about this, where there's a 30 and a 50 amp on the pedestals, but he believes that the breakers are only rated for 50. So if someone comes up and for whatever reason uses both, then it pops the breaker. We're going to discuss that tomorrow, and I'll let you guys know, because that's just another issue, another layer. Not so much with the payments and scheduling and whatnot, but.
So you can't use the 50 and the 30 because it'll.
Right. Well, at least that was our understanding. He's going to clarify tomorrow.
That's how it was designed.
Well, right. Well, so the issue is if somebody comes and does it, then it's popped and it's on a weekend, nobody's going to come over there and fix it, right?
And certainly it was designed because one boat should be plugged
One or the other. It shouldn't be
one or
both.
the other. It's going to be a 30 or it's going to be a 50.
Right. But we're also relying on people to be smart enough to know that.
Well, and the 50, it's designed to accept 50, so the 30 will never break it by itself. The 50 is not going to break it by itself. But if somebody's going to plug 2 boats in,
Right.
and they're paying for one, it's designed to break it. So,
Well, right. I think we'll come into that issue a lot. That's why he's looking into it, to ask about it. So,
I don't think that in itself is workable, just because it's going to happen too often.
well, it is workable because the one that paid for it is going to be without power. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but that's not right. I know.
Yes, it
That's
is.
not right for the guy that paid for it.
Yes, it is, if he's plugging in someone else to his power pole. I mean, what we're having is someone else plugging in to a power pole that's being rented by
Right.
an individual. Now, that's obviously being done, I would say, at least for the most part, with the knowledge of the individual who rented, who leased. So, yeah, that's the design of it.
well, either way, regardless, he had reached out to the engineers, and I think to PEC or maybe even the electrical person, and I'm going to have more information on it after that. So with Chris knowing that everything's communicating right and we're not having dropouts, he's already started doing a little bit more of the hard coding to have a payment processor set up to automate this.
Wonderful.
So anyway, there's movement happening. It's just slow. So.
Certainly our thanks to both of you for working on that. Yeah. Next thing is the Public Safety Committee, Councilman Dennis, Councilman Bounds. I have nothing listed. Do y'all have anything to bring up? Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
By Councilman Alex, second by Councilman Dennis. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much.